Mr. Colonel Bhaskar to comment on the considerations to strengthen the market transparency for DRE sector to boost rural infrastructure finance and market linkages. Over to you, Colonel Bhaskar.
Vijay, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I was saying, I can see Megha looking a little worried about time, so I'm going to make it really quick. And I just cover 4 or 5 very important aspects. Most of the stuff has been covered by the previous speakers. I think we are all aware of what's happening over there. I'll just cover scale, the initial buy-in, which they talked about, policy, finance, technical innovation, sophistication, training skills, and impact. So I'll be quick about it. So the minimum scale required for mini grids, I'm talking about mini grid context now in the DRE space. Minimum required to make it viable, sustainable, is about 50 to 100 mini grids, depending on what level of what kind of sustainability you want to achieve. And it has to be done in a very compact geography. So scale is required to keep capex down. Compact geography is required to keep overheads costs down. So you can imagine if somebody wants to get into the mini grid space, 50 to 100 mini grids would translate to almost like $5 to $10 million investment. You should be ready to come in with that. And without that, it's really difficult for the developer to really sustain over a period of time. Second, Devaji touched upon it. Others have also touched upon it. It's initial buy-in. Extremely important. So we need to engage with the stakeholders, engage with the communities that we're going to serve, get them to understand what really the model is, negotiate the tariff that's going to work for them and for you, and try and see how this entire thing is going to be not just a pure energy service model, but also something that's going to help them in livelihoods and a lot of other things. So unless economic development happens, really the mini grid model is not going to be sustainable. The other about policy, we talk a lot about policy, but not having a government policy in a state is sometimes quite an okay thing to get started with. What is the policy going to tell you? It's going to tell you that here you can come into my state and build mini grids. We recognize that, which is fine. We don't really need them to say that because the Electricity Act anyway allows you to, after permission of the village community, the village council or the Gram Sabha, to set up a mini grid. So you don't really need the state to give you a policy on that. And then there are today, as somebody brought out, almost every village is connected to the main grid. And therefore, that stuff that we worried about, that, okay, what if the grid comes, is no longer there. And as somebody said, we need to build a business model around the grid being there and the unreliable and a poor quality grid being there. So, and we really don't have to worry about the policy being there, because when we went into Jharkhand, there was no policy. There's something happening over there now. They are trying to put together a policy, but there was always support from the government whenever you wanted on solutions, especially to do with livelihoods, cold chains, and agriculture. We're now working in Nagaland. The government there's no policy over there, but the government is absolutely welcoming and says that they are going to sort of help us, set up DRE solutions in the state. But where really the policy matters, and most of the state policies do not address, is the fact that the other infrastructure that is there in the villages, which is around health, primary health centers, schools, street lights, all other infrastructure that is there, which is not covered under the policy. So you may they allow you to set up a mini grid, but then what happens to all the other stuff? Because they're all dependent on other kinds of systems which are unreliable. But now the Nagaland government is planning to work to help us to integrate this entire thing into an integrated model, which is what I think the policy should address. Next is about finance. Now, there is, as we said, the DRE sector is not viable as a pure energy service provider model. This energy has to contribute towards the economic development of the village. It has to encourage livelihoods. It has to encourage productive loads. And there is a different kind of an intervention required for you to generate demand and sustain it going forward. And therefore, this soft part of the project has to be on grants, and therefore there has to be a blended finance that has to come in terms of grants, debt, and equity. And therefore, this organization structure that we have in terms of just a private limited company doing it is not going to work. You will need a hybrid model, for profit working with a not for profit, which can receive these funds for the softer parts of the project. Next is technological sophistication and innovation. The operational expenditure can only be kept down if you have a very sophisticated system to monitor data acquisition, data monitoring, data analytics, and link it with the user, the end part of it, which is the smart meters, and then these both should be able to talk to each other for you to really take decisions how to grow demand. So unless that can happen, the operational costs are going to be extremely high. The last part is as you grow beyond 30, 40 grids, there's a huge pressure on human resource skill building, and this is something that you need to address because the number of moving parts that become very huge, because you need to develop social skills for your people, you need to develop the technical skills, and this has to go hand in hand with micro enterprise building. And therefore that same person, you can't have different specialists roaming around over there. The operation costs overheads are going to be extremely high, and the skill development is going to be a very important part. Last and not the least, unless you have an independent impact assessment of the work that you're doing, the stakeholders in terms of whether it's the government, the investors, the grant makers, and you yourself are not going to understand what exactly is happening over there. And therefore, right at the outset, an impact assessment component has got to be built into this. Thank you so much, Megha.
Keeping that so crisp and for giving us these eye-opening reality checks of what's happening on the ground.